More people have walked on the moon than reached the deepest trench on Earth. That's where giant deep-sea creatures you have probably never heard of are hiding. Bathynomus vaderi, the Vader sea bug. Our first giant was not discovered by a robot at the bottom of a trench. It sat on ice in a crowded seafood market in Vietnam. Local fishers have been selling sea bugs from deep water in the South China Sea since about 2017. When researchers brought a batch and compared them with specimens in museum drawers, one type refused to match anything on record. The shell plate and body shape match Bathynomus, the same group as other giant isopods, basically ocean relatives of those woodlice hiding under your flower pots, but the head shield was wrong. The tail spines didn't match, and the proportions were off. After careful work by a team consisting of members of Singapore, Indonesia, and Vietnam, they realized they were looking at a new species. In 2025, it was named Bathynomus vaderi. Yes, we named it after Darth Vader. Look at it. For a bug, it's huge. A woodlouse under a flower pot might reach 1 or 2 centimeters. Bathynomus vaderi can grow to about 32.5 centimeters long and weigh more than 1 kilogram, which makes it one of the largest isopods ever found. It lives on cold, dark seafloor near the Spratly Islands, likely hundreds to a couple thousand meters down, where sunlight never arrives and pressure already climbs far above surface levels. Other giant isopods in the same group are common between 170 and about 2,100 meters. Down there, vaderi is a slow scavenger. When a dead fish, squid, or even a whale carcass hits the mud, they roll in as a crowd and pack tight around it like they've just found the only all-you-can-eat buffet for miles. A big body lets them store more energy between rare meals, travel farther across the seafloor, and push small scavengers off a valuable carcass. In a place where the next real food might be months away, large and stubborn beats small and fast. For millions of years, this thing crawled around in the dark, and nobody cared, but within a year of getting a scientific name, people were boiling it alive for reviews and calling it content. Really says everything about us, doesn't it? Giant larvaceans, the mucus mansion builders. Now, pull the sub up into the twilight zone between roughly 200 and 1,000 meters. Sunlight fades to a dim blue haze, and a slow rain of marine snow drifts past the windows. That snow is just tiny bits of dead plankton, plus poop and dust falling down from above. In that storm, something that looks like a faint clear balloon drifts across the lights. Inside the balloon sits a tiny tadpole-shaped animal. This is a giant larvacean, an open ocean animal scientists call Bathochordaeus. The animal itself is only a few centimeters long. The giant part is the house it builds. Each larvacean inflates a bubble of mucus around itself that can reach more than 1 meter across. You can picture a fragile jelly sphere with a maze of filters inside. The animal hangs in the middle and beats its tail like a slow paddle. Water is pulled in through big outer inlets, squeezed through finer and finer mucus filters, then pushed back out again. Those mucus walls act like sticky slime, so plankton and tiny particles get caught in them and then eaten. Experiments from the Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute, a research group in California, showed that one giant larvacean can filter around 80 liters of seawater every hour with this setup. That's roughly a bathtub every hour, coming through one little animal sitting in its snot bubble. Evolution really looked at home air filter and said, let's try that, but wet. The house clogs when too many particles build up, same as a vacuum bag. The larvacean just swims out, lets the whole thing collapse, and builds a new one nearby. In busy water, it can build and discard several of these ghost houses in a single day. When a house collapses, it becomes part of the marine snow. All that mucus and trapped plankton is heavy, so it sinks and carries living cells, aka carbon, from the surface layers down into deeper water. Here, it feeds animals that never see sunlight. In some parts of the ocean, these dropped houses may move as much carbon as many larger swimming animals combined. So you've got a creature about the size of your thumb running a one-animal filter plant, quietly moving food and carbon into the deep. Not the poster child you expect for a giant, but without millions of these mucus mansions, the deep sea would starve. Big fin squid, the walking noodle UFO. Now drop your imaginary sub to around 3,000 meters. Your lights cut a narrow beam through the black water, and at the edge of that beam something is just hanging there in place. A small pale squid body floats in the middle of the shot, only about 20 centimeters long. From that little body, arms and tentacles as thin as wires run straight down into the dark. A big fin squid from a group called Magnapina. Those limbs can reach 6 to 8 meters long, around 10 times the length of the body, so the whole animal looks like a bunch of loose cables dangling off a tiny hub. These squid live in the deep midwater, often between about 2,000 and 4,000 meters, with one possible sighting near 4,800 meters in the South Atlantic. For most of the 20th century, they were about rumors, known from a few damaged specimens and a few blurry photos. Clear video only started to show up once research ships carried good deep-sea cameras. In 2020, a cruise run by the United States National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, filmed a bigfin squid in the Gulf of Mexico at about 2,386 meters. On that clip, you can see the small body and those arms dropping away under it like a curtain of hanging wires. Scientists think those long limbs work like a very slow fishing rig. The squid holds them out and down and waits. Small shrimp, crab-like animals, and other tiny creatures drift into the line of arms and get grabbed. Even now, there are a few dozen solid bigfin sightings worldwide. That is tiny when you remember how big the deep ocean really is. From our point of view, it really is like spotting a UFO. But that could also be the same from its point of view if it saw us. Advena magnifica, the ET glass sponge. At around 2,000 meters in the Pacific near places like the Mariana region, Hawaii, and Johnston Atoll, scientists on the NOAA ship Okeanos Explorer were piloting a remotely operated vehicle, an underwater robot on a cable over an underwater mountain when the cameras picked up something odd. A thin stalk about 15 centimeters long rose from the seafloor mud, topped by a pale spherical head about 13 centimeters across with two dark openings that looked like eyes. On the live stream, viewers started calling it the ET sponge almost instantly. Nobody argued. The nickname stuck. Later work showed that this was a new species of glass sponge. In 2020, it was given the name Advena magnifica, which roughly means magnificent stranger. Like other glass sponges, Advena builds its body from silica, the same stuff as window glass. Its tissue is packed with tiny glassy needles called spicules. These form a light inner skeleton that keeps the head and stalk in shape. Water flows in through small holes in the sides and out through the top. Cells inside the sponge grab bacteria and find particles from that flow and turn them into food. For years, clips of this animal sat in video archives from deep-sea robots with labels like "strange white thing with a face." Only when researchers collected a good sample and put it under a microscope did they realize it was not just a new species but a new genus of sponge. In biology, a genus is the level above species, so creating a new one means this thing is weird enough that it does not fit into any existing group. So Advena spent years quietly filtering water at 2,000 meters, minding its own business, and the first time we show up, we name it after an alien and turn it into memes. We really cannot help ourselves. Alicella gigantea, the breadloaf amphipod. Follow the seafloor as it drops into a trench. At 7,000 to 9,000 meters, you enter the Hadal Zone, the name scientists use for the deepest ocean trenches, taken from Hades. Here the pressure can reach 700 to 900 times what you feel at the surface. That's kind of like parking a stack of cars on every square centimeter of your body. Down here, scientists often lower baited cameras into the dark and wait. In the footage, a pale crustacean about as long as your forearm suddenly bursts into view and shoves into the feeding pile. This is Alicella gigantea, the super giant amphipod. Most amphipods are tiny beach hoppers measuring a few millimeters, but Alicella grew to 34 centimeters, weighs half a kilogram, and solves every problem by shoving. These animals have been recorded in several deep trenches, including the Kermadec and Tonga trenches in the Pacific. Drop a bait bag at the bottom and a crowd of smaller amphipods arrives first. When the Alicella shows up, it pushes them aside and takes the center of the bait. Its thick shell protects it from bites, the long antennae help it feel exactly where the food is, and its legs dig into the mud so it can stay there and keep eating. Scientists think the cold helps them get this big. Low temperatures slow their body processes down and let them keep growing for many years. Another factor is energy storage. A bigger body can hold more fat between rare meals like a fallen fish or whale. Larger shell-covered animals can also pack more gill surface area into their bodies. That extra area helps them grab enough oxygen from deep water that often carries less oxygen than surface layers. It's not the most graceful, but at 8,000 meters, tidy movement matters less than arriving first at the buffet and not becoming the side fish. Chondrocladia, the death ball sponges. Most people hear the word sponge and think of something that just filters water. A few deep-sea sponges took a different path and became hunters. In 2025, an International Ocean Census expedition exploring the South Sandwich Trench in the Southern Ocean filmed something that looked like a cluster of glowing ornaments on thin stalks. A specimen collected at about 3,600 meters turned out to be a new species of carnivorous sponge in a group called Chondrocladia. The team nicknamed it the death ball sponge. Before you ask, no, you cannot keep one as a pet. Each sponge rises on a narrow stalk and ends in a round head a few centimeters across. That head carries radiating branches lined with tiny hooks and glassy spicules, those same small glass needles that act like internal support. Instead of pulling in bacteria from the water, these sponges catch small crustaceans like shrimp and amphipods. When an animal brushes against the head, it gets snagged on the hooks. The sponge slowly grows tissue around the trapped prey and digests it over time. It's the underwater version of a very slow barbed wire. Carnivorous sponges in Chondrocladia are now known from deep water off California, New Zealand, and the Southern Ocean, often between 2,000 and 4,000 meters. They're not individually huge, but as a group they create a forest of silent traps. To a small animal walking across the mud, that patch of strange lollipops is a minefield. So that's all the deep-sea giants we've got for today. For everyone we've named, there are probably dozens more sliding past in the dark that never touches a lens. And from their point of view, we're the weird ones. Soft, noisy surface animals who keep sending little robots down and boiling the neighbors for content. So, which of these giants would you least want to meet if the lights on your sub suddenly went out? Let me know in the comments, and thanks for watching.